Yes, I like this.
I want you guys to answer me a question. How often has this exact situation happened to you? You're going about capping points, pushing the cart, or sneaking into the enemy's base to grab the intel when your progress is entirely halted by at least 3 to 7 engineers all building in the same place. If you answered never, then you have just never played TF2 before. Now, Engineer has probably been hit with more nerfs than anyone I know, and is not much of a threat on his own to a good player. However, when taking on Sentry nests of such magnitude, and with still no class limits in place in TF2, no amount of skill is going to take them all out. At least, not unless you are prepared. Welcome, Dailies and Mental Gin, to the top 9 best loadouts for destroying Sentry nests. First, we look at the Scout, and I will be frank with you all, Scout is easily the worst class you could go to combat Sentry nests. However, as long as other teammates need a Scout and you are helping them to take down the nest, you could actually be a huge asset to the team. First is the shortstop, for the simple reason that it does the most damage to a Sentry when you are safely outside of its firing range, as Scout will not last long against Sentry nests on his own. Unless Bonk Atomic Punch. Also, the Atomizer in there with that, for extra mobility. With the Bonk, you can absorb all of the Sentry's fire for 8 seconds, more than enough time for a push by teammates to destroy as many buildings as possible without having to worry about the Sentries harming them or you. Well, except for Wranglers, of course, but hey, this is the best Scout can do, and considering this is Scout we are talking about, he actually does a pretty fair job so long as he has help from his team. The second class we focus on is the Soldier, and this one is easy. First, the direct hit. It may have a 70% smaller blast radius, but it's not like the Sentries are moving, is it? It then offers a 25% damage bonus and a 80% faster projectile speed, making fast work of those pesky Sentries. His secondary weapon is, of course, the Battalion's backup. For the simple fact that when activated, it offers 10 full seconds of 50% damage immunity from Sentries and full immunity to crits from those evil Frontier Justice engineers. It also brings the Soldier's max health up to 220 HP, and lastly, for his melee, we are going to be equipping the Equalizer. When all else— Cat, was it freaking— I'm recording, and you're just coming up here and you're like, man, what do you want? Oh, really? Yeah, it's not time for you to be fed yet. No, you have to wait. It's not even close to being time for you to be fed. Oh, I'm gonna go feed my cat. God, I don't think I've ever had one of my top 9 lists be interrupted like that. Where were we? Oh right, the Equalizer. Okay, Equalizer. When all else fails and you are hurt, you can deal up to 113 damage a swing, or you can just taunt and blow up everything within the Soldier's blast radius for an instant kill and instant building destruction at the cost of your own life. By the way, in these next clips, I'm sorry there's not a lot of Sentry destroying going on. They actually had some really good engineers, and I was looking forward to tackling their nests, maybe get a medic and run in there with a quick fix and a home wrecker, but they decided, you know what? We lost last round, so instead of working on our Sentry placement, let's just replace every single engineer we have with a sniper. Because it's totally not like a Scout is going to just backcap them 3 times and instantly win the game. Yeah. Now third is Pyro, and this guy was a little hard to figure out. I mean, Pyro is not exactly built for dealing with Sentries head-on, but what he can do is reflect the Sentry's own rockets back into them. So we need one of his 2 weapons so far that can air blast effectively and consistently. Either the stock or the degreaser. However, we are going to go with the degreaser for the fact that its faster deploy and switch time is perfect for doing a reflect and attack combo with a shotgun. The degreaser may take 25 ammo to fire rather than the stock's 20, but if you are reflecting rockets long enough for that to become a factor, you are the definition of insanity.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change.
No, rather when the Sentry is reloading its rockets, you are chipping away its health with the stock shotgun just because it does the most damage to buildings out of all of his secondaries and has the most shots. Lastly, fairly easy choice, but only useful if you have a good medic on you, the Homewrecker, or the Maul. I mean, 130 damage a swing to a building is not bad. Not bad at all. Situational, mind you, but with a huge payoff. For number 4, we have Demoman. Honestly, the class you should be using to do this, but there are definitely situations that call for other classes to do the job. First is the lock and load. Simple, really. You're missing one pill for 20% more damage to buildings and a faster projectile speed, making it harder for the already unreliable short circuit to evaporate your pills. It may be missing one pill, but trust me, it is much better to take the Sentry down fast than do more damage overall. Angie can turtle and repair just about as fast as the stock grenade launcher can damage the building. For his sticky launcher, speed is still important, so naturally stock, right? Well, there is the quickie, but that does too little damage to justify the extra firing speed, but you know what does work? The Scottish Resistance! Hear me out. First, you already have the lock and load to do the quick dispatch, but if that fails, fast DPS is not the issue. Not having huge burst damage is. Now, the Scottish Resistance does take 0.8 seconds longer to arm the bombs, but you can overwhelm them by having up to 14 stickies out at max, and that will be pretty easy to do with the 25% faster firing speed. There is no way an engineer can destroy all of those in time without using the short circuit, at which case he has shortly depleted the metal needed to repair his buildings, so it is time for another lock and load attack. Even if it fails, it still wins in the end with the lock and load's help. They actually work well together for something, who knew? Lastly, if all else fails, there is Plan C, the Ullapool Caber. Basically a discount equalizer at this point, but it is a good last resort. Just find a safe place where you can wait the 9 years it takes to deploy the weapon in the first place. And for number 5, we have the Heavy Weapons Guy. And keep in mind that we at least try to focus on single loadouts for taking on a Sentry Nest on your own. If they all relied on teammates to come in and help, the Cowmangler 5000 would actually beat out the direct hit for its ability to disable all buildings in its decently large blast radius. So, for this loadout, do not expect to have a medic up your 24/7, okay? So first is a simple concept. If you find yourself needing to retreat and regroup after a failed attack on the Sentry Nest, you can pull out your Fists of Steel and do something that takes a bit of practice but is not impossible to pull off. Pull the Fist of Steel out, turn around, and crouch jump as the Sentry is shooting you. The idea is that the Sentry will knock you out of its own range, enabling an escape as the engineer repairs the damage you have just done to his buildings. It is hard to pull off, but take it from me, I've done this before and it has saved my life quite a few times. Second, and with medic not always pocketing you, keep in mind, if you find yourself tackling a Sentry Nest alone, you are going to want some extra health to prolong your attacking periods. This is where the Dalakos bar comes into play. Granted, it is not a whole lot of extra health for heavy, just plus 50 health, but it stacks with an effect of our next weapon, which makes it much more viable. The Brass Beast. Its 20% extra damage also applies to buildings, and since we are attacking a stationary target, slowly creeping around a corner with its horrible movement speed is not really a huge hindrance. Also, its 20% damage resistance when under half health with the Dalakos bar means that you get that bonus slightly sooner, with you needing to be under 175 health to start the resistance rather than 150. It does not seem like much, but the extra health to start and the slightly sooner damage resistance really does all come together in the end. Now for a weird one. Engineer. Yeah, you don't really see other engineers taking on Sentry Nest, do you? More often than not, they just build teleporters for the rest of his team to attack the nest, but that does not mean he cannot do some serious damage on his own. First, the Widowmaker. You actually gain metal back for shooting buildings and not just players, and I'm willing to bet at least 30% of you did not know that. Next is the Gunslinger, 25 extra health, and fast building and expendable mini-sentries, but we are not just going to put the mini-sentry in the direct line of fire, that's just silly. However you look at it, a level 3 sentry will always win a fight with a mini. Unless the mini is out of its range and you use our next weapon to attack the level 3, the Wrangler, doubling the fire rate of your mini-sentry to output roughly the same damage as a level 2 sentry, and while it is safely out of the reach of the sentry's range. So yeah, engineer attacking a Sentry Nest, difficult and very uncommon, but not impossible. Okay, now we get into some of the more difficult ones. First is Medic, and yeah, Medic does kind of need assistance when attacking, just like Scout. Still though, he can do decent damage from a safe distance with the Crusader's crossbow. Now, a lot of times, if it is just one sentry and I am pocketing a heavy, I prefer Quick Fix for its faster uber and heal rate, but this is a nest we are talking about. So, with all of the sentries attacking you at once, we are going to have to go with Stock. Now we can help Stock's uber build faster with the Uber Saw. Basically, the idea is to try and pop as many full uber charges as possible in the shortest amount of time, never letting up on the sentry nest and hoping that those engineers cannot keep up with all of those ubers, eventually destroying everything. Or, I guess you could self-uber and continue the uber by attacking the engineers with the Uber Saw in a blind spot of the sentry's range, but if you have a full stock uber, you really should just find a heavy demo, soldier, or pyro to attack with you, instead of risking it on something silly like that. Now we move on to Sniper. Machina. Simple, really. Its 15% damage bonus applies to buildings as well, and most sentries will go down in a fully charged shot, followed by a quickscope. The Darwin's Danger Shield, just in case the NG comes after you, or gets you in his sights of a Wrangler. And lastly, the Sahansha. God knows why you would run at a sentry nest and attack it with a melee as sniper, but if you do, this knife should do the most damage before you die like an idiot. Well, unless you plan to have a medic uber you, in that case just use Stock. And now, last, but certainly not least, the original Sentry Buster, the queen to our King Gaben, the Spy. Let's get the obvious out of the way. If you want to straight up destroy sentry guns instead of hinder a nest, then go with the Stock Sapper. If you want to deal the most damage to a sentry while it's being sapped, then go with the Stock Revolver. If the sentry nest has pyros guarding it, you're going to want the Spy Sickle for granting short fire immunity. And last, if something goes horribly wrong and you need a scapegoat, the Dead Ringer. Now these loadouts are not guaranteed to destroy every sentry nest, but they sure will give you the best chance of doing so. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to Leo Laszlo who suggested this idea to me. This was a really fun list to cover and a great idea, so good on you. And as always, subscribe for more, and make sure YouTube didn't unsubscribe any of you again, and have a great day!
The cart is not moving!
What are you guys shooting at? That's a lamp! That's not a sniper. That's a lamp.
Why is no one else pushing this cart?